Maniacs. This your boy Bradford Lassiter, aka Big Brad the Rock, and welcome to another edition of Movie Flashbacks. And today we're going to talk about Spider-Man 3. Yes, as you've been seeing, every month I've been reviewing every single Spider-Man movie, monthly, leading up to Spider-Man Homecoming. So now we've gotten to this point of the franchise. The underwhelming Spider-Man film, because yes, we all know the first two Spider-Man films were good, and Spider-Man 3, not a lot of people like, but me personally, I actually didn't mind Spider-Man 3. I actually like it. Do I think it's the best movie? Hell no, but I do find some stuff in it that's actually good. There's some stuff in the movie that's not so good. So I'm going to talk about, the good and the bad. Now, I do remember when Spider-Man 3 came out. It came out in 2007. I was a freshman in high school. It came out in, actually, May of my birthday, because my birthday is May 2nd, so yeah, I remember this movie came out the weekend of my birthday. I turned 16 at that point, and all I just really want to do is just go see this movie. And me and a bunch of my friends, we got together. We went to go see Spider-Man 3. And now, initially, we all liked the movie. At least I did. But then as I got older, I kind of saw that this movie got a lot of hate. And as I got older, I kind of see, pretty much, I think I told you in my Phantom Menace review that Spider-Man 3, it was a movie that I was Phantom Menacing, which means I was in denial of how just underwhelming the movie was. And, I'm guilty of that. So, but I still like Spider-Man 3, but I will be the first to admit that Spider-Man 3 has problems. I told you, the first Spider-Man has a place in my heart as one of my favorite movies of all time for a reason. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite Spider-Man movie, but this movie, yeah, so let's talk about it. Now, the first thing I will definitely admit is that this movie is definitely a product of the studio getting their hands on it. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, and this movie turned into the convoluted mess that it was. Now, first of all, Danny Elfman's score. I do like the opening credits of this film. How, in the first movie it was just, regular opening credits, and then the second movie it showed paintings of the last movie, and then this movie it shows footage from the last two movies, and then we see the symbiote and the sand and everything. I do like it. I just love every variation of this opening credits score. Then after the opening credits, we get Spider-Man. He's swinging through the streets of New York. He's talking about everything's all good. I'm top of my class. Everything's all good with MJ. But of course, Harry Osborn, he's still a little bitter after finding out that Spider-Man is Peter Parker and that Spider-Man killed his father, who turned out to be the Green Goblin. Now, at that point, you would think that he would be the villain. But no, we also get introduced to another villain, the Sandman. We see his backstory. He has a little girl that has cancer, and he's just trying to get money so that he could save her. And not only that, but we also get introduced to a third villain, or at least a part of a third villain, in which we see Peter and Mary Jane. They're in a web looking at the sky, and then they kiss, and then they see what seems to be a shooting star, and then it hits the ground, and it's a symbiote. Yes, they're doing that. The Venom is in this movie. But with the first of the villains, we see Harry Osborn, and I do like that first fight between the two of them. Harry, he catches Peter off guard off his bike, and then they're just swinging, and it's just cool seeing Peter Parker. He's trying to catch the ring that Aunt May gave him. Then Peter, he gets the upper hand and knocks him out, and then now Harry has amnesia, and throughout most of the movie, Harry has amnesia. And as with the Sandman, he is on the run from the police, and then he falls into this pit. And this is one of the few dumb moments of this film, is when the Sandman, he falls into this pit of sand, and then it turns out to be like a scientific site or whatever. And then these people are like,
Donnie, we got a little fluctuation on one.
There's a change in the silicon mass.
Yeah, it's probably a bird. It'll fly away when we fire it up.
Initiating demolecularization.
That moment you're like, get your lazy ass up and go see what it is. But no, Flint Marko, he is trapped in there, and then he turns into the Sandman, and which also leads to a beautiful scene that I thought was really good. It's when the Sandman, he wakes up and he's trying to regain himself, and it's a very beautiful scene. It's just visual storytelling without no dialogue. But the symbiote also follows Peter Parker home, and there's just nothing about where the symbiote came from and why it chose Peter of all people, though. But within the symbiote, we also get introduced to Eddie Brock. He's trying to take Peter's position at the Daily Bugle, and yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Eddie's character, And if we didn't get introduced to enough characters we'll get introduced to Gwen Stacy in this movie. And she is in this movie for no reason at all. She's just there to be a MacGuffin for the fall of Peter and Mary Jane's relationship. In which Spider-Man, he gets the key to the city, and then he just kisses her. That special kiss that they had in the first film, well, he does it, but with Gwen Stacy this time. And this also leads to a scene where the Sandman, we see him for the first time, and he fights Spider-Man for the first time. I thought that scene was pretty cool, though. Generally speaking, I actually have no problem with the action in this movie. I think if I had any nitpicks with the action, it's that it was apparent that there was a lot more CGI in this film than the first two films. Because, with the first two films, it didn't rely on CGI, but you can clearly see in this film that there's a bunch of not rendered very well visuals of the characters. So yeah, I will definitely say that some of the CGI does not hold up. Then we also find out that the killer who killed Uncle Ben turns out not be the killer. It was actually Flip Marco, who is the Sandman. And then Peter finds out about this, and then he gets real pissed, and he's all like, "This man killed my uncle, and he's still out there." So now Peter is on this revenge path. And then the symbiote finally gets a hold of him and gave him the black Spider-Man suit. Now, at first you would think, what is this? But, he's just too preoccupied and he feels so good about it. He's like, this is something else. Like, I understand, you would think people would be like, what is this? But I can understand because, once you have that power that's making you feel good, you just don't care. Now, luckily, he does give it to Dr. Connors to give it to him, and Dr. Connors even tried to warn him. Don't hold on to any of that, because in order for it to survive, it needs a host. And once it binds, it becomes harder to unbind. So, we can't say that somebody tried to warn him, but, Peter Parker, he just dealt with it. And then he finds out where Flip Marco / Sandman is, and then he goes to it. And I just like that part where, he sees Eddie Brock, and he's trying to say, hey Spider-Man, just do something for me. And then he sticks his web at the camera and then smashes it, and Spider-Man's like, see it, chump. And then Eddie's like, what the hell? But again, I have no problem with the action in this movie, and I especially love the fight between the Sandman and the black-suited Spider-Man, You can definitely feel that rage within Spider-Man. He's like, you remember Ben Parker, the man you killed in cold blood? Why does it matter to you anyway? Everything! Like, it's just real tense. They're just kicking and punching each other and pushing each other into trains. And then, of course, Spider-Man does kill Sandman, seemingly, by drowning him in water, because, sand pretty much just turns into water. And we come to find out that Sandman is still alive, because, sand turns into water. Water pretty much becomes mud at some point, and then he just comes back alive. But more on that later. But after this, you can definitely see that the symbiote suit is definitely taking a toll on Peter, to the point where he goes off on his landlord. He's all like, yo, get your rent when you fix this damn door! But then he realizes what he's doing. He takes it off, and then, he tries to patch everything up with MJ. Oh yeah, more on this movie. We start to see the fall of Peter and Mary Jane's relationship, because Mary Jane, she's in the show, but then she gets fired, and Peter, he tries to help her, but he continues to make it all about himself, and that's really the fall of the relationship. He tries to help her, but, he just makes it all about himself, he's comparing it to Spider-Man, and that's not what Mary Jane wants to hear or needs to hear. It's like, she needs comfort, she needs motivation. But I do like that, because, it's kind of like reverse psychology in a sense, because in the first movie, the world was evolved around Mary Jane, because she was a popular girl in school, and she's used to getting the popularity now with the play. But now that she knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is getting all the attention, and she's starting to fall a little bit, it's like, wow. And of course, as I said earlier, she's already mad that Spider-Man kissed Gwen Stacy, and eventually she turns to Harry for attention, and then after that. And then after a kiss, and then Mary Jane leaves, Harry regains his memory, and then he starts to see his father again, and then he turns into old Harry again, where he wants revenge, and he uses Mary Jane to his advantage, and forces Mary Jane to break up with Peter. And then we get that stupid, silly scene where Tobey Maguire, I'm not calling him Peter Parker in that scene, Tobey Maguire, he's just crying. I remember I saw the scene in the theaters, and the whole theater bust out laughing. And Peter finds out that Harry has his memory back, and then he forces Mary Jane to break up with her. Now, at that point, you would think Peter Parker would forgive Mary Jane because he understood what it is, but no, he doesn't. He just continues to be Dick Peter, but more on that later. So anyway, that leads to a funny but intense fight between Peter and Harry. I like the part, because, you used to be best friends, and now they're butting heads, and, Harry's like, I protected you in high school, now I'm going to kick your little ass. I just love that scene. They're getting thrown and punched and kicked, and then he throws him in the Goblin lair, and then I'm Larry, and Peter's like, oh, look at little Goblin Jr. Wanna cry? And then he knocks him out, and Harry tries to throw a Goblin bomb at him, but then Peter throws it back at him and pretty much disfigured half of his face. And then later on, he sees on the Daily Bugle paper that Spider-Man is framed for being a bad guy, but then Peter realizes what happened, and then he goes to Eddie Brock, and then I just like the part where after J. Jonah Jameson fires Eddie Brock, we're going to have to print a retraction, right? I haven't printed a retraction in 20 years! And then this is where the movie really starts to go downhill, is when we get dancing Peter Parker, or emo Peter Parker. He's just like, the audience laughed when I saw this in theaters, but come on, let's be real. You can't just be like, That was just terrible. Like this is the part where I think Sony got their hands on it, and like someone should have told them, like, excuse me, maybe we should not do that. And then this also leads to Peter Parker going to the restaurant Mary Jane works at, and we get more dancing Peter, and this really brought the movie down.
Thanks.
What am I even watching now? So Peter accidentally hits Mary Jane, and then at that point, Peter, he finally snaps out of it, that he goes to a church because he's having an identity crisis. And it's like, in earlier in the film, he says, you want forgiveness and get religion. And I also like that because, he pretty much goes to a church trying to get religion, trying to find forgiveness, or, well, not just forgiveness, but he's having an identity crisis. And then he finally takes the black suit off, and then Eddie Brock sees him, and the symbiote goes from Peter and then gets on Eddie Brock. And then Eddie Brock becomes the Venom at the last minute and out of nowhere. And he teams up with the Sandman because the Sandman is back at that point, and then Venom and Sandman, they capture Mary Jane for the third freaking time in this entire series, because it ain't a Spider-Man movie if Mary Jane is not kidnapped for the climax for the movie. And I do generally like the climax of the movie, because not only because you get two villains, well, that is a problem in the movie. There's just too many villains, but more on that later. But the fact of, Harry and Peter, they finally make up and they team up. I actually like that part. It's very inspirational. I remember when I saw it in theaters, I cheered like, yes! And then they save Mary Jane, and then, of course, they take out Sandman. But I also like the part where Peter Parker, he uses the sound cage to separate Eddie Brock from Venom. I just like that part. It was just like, I do like that scene while it lasts, but it still doesn't make up for why Venom is in the movie out of nowhere, though. And they could have handled Venom very perfectly, because Topher Grace, okay, as Eddie Brock, but as Venom, no, that was a complete miscast. They should have cast someone else. And then the Sandman, he comes back and he explains to Peter what happened, because Uncle Ben was trying to help him. He tells him, why don't you put down the gun and go home? But then he accidentally shot Uncle Ben. And at that moment, they both forgive each other. In Venom, he killed Harry Osborn. I do like that scene where the two of them make up and we get more crying Peter, but it's also a very sad scene because at first, Harry Osborn, he was the villain of the movie, but then he came back to the light and he became the hero in the end, truly illustrating either you die a hero or you live long enough to become a villain, especially after, your butler tells you that he knew about his father the whole long and what really killed him. And at that point, you would think like, you are so fired. You knew the whole time and you just let me go through with this? Another dumb moment of the movie. And then the movie just ends on a very somber note. And now, if we had gotten the fourth movie, I think I could accept that. But, knowing that this is the third movie and the last of this particular series, is like, what the hell? But I do get the scene, because, I'm the type of person that understands, actions speak louder than words. So, and at that moment, Peter and MJ, they forgive each other, but who knows what would have held them for the future, though. But in the end, like I said, there was some good in this movie, and there was also some bad in this movie. But if I could chop this movie down, because, there are three villains, Harry, Sandman, and Venom. Okay, Venom does not need to be in the movie. Sandman could stay in the movie, because I think the movie should really revolve around the new Goblin, Harry Osborn, because I feel like, yes, he should have been the focus, but at the same time, it's like we don't need to see any more Goblin. I want to see different villains in every movie. So have the Goblin as the main villain throughout most of the movie, but then he helps Peter in the end against the Sandman, because the Sandman, that was a good plot point. Just keep Venom out of the movie. And then keep the symbiote and everything out. Take Gwen Stacy out because she was in this movie for no reason at all. The whole fall of the relationship between Peter and MJ, that could stay in the movie. The fact that the Sandman killed Uncle Ben, take that out of the movie. Keep those things I mentioned in the movie, and I think the movie could have made for a more cohesive film. And even though it was two villains, it wouldn't feel like a clusterfuck of villains, though. So that when we get to the fourth movie, we see that rage within Peter, and then that it's tested in this film, and then we finally get to the fourth film where we see the symbiote, and it pretty much enables that anger within Peter. But you know, we never got that fourth movie, and I was really sad about that. That when we got The Amazing Spider-Man, I was unfairly biased against it, but I still like the film. We'll get to that movie in my next review that next month. But the only way I could see a fourth movie happen to pretty much give this series of Spider-Man movies some closure is if they made like an unofficial fourth movie. Now here's the thing, I have a brilliant story idea to how to pretty much give the true closure that this particular series of Spider-Man movies needed. But I'll get to that after I review The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because it actually ties all those movies together along with the Tom Holland Spider-Man. I'll get to this idea later because I'm still trying to put it all together. But as for Spider-Man 3, as I said, in the end, this movie is definitely a product of the studio getting their hands on it and too many cooks in the kitchen. After the success of Spider-Man 2, they were really trying to do everything they can to make this movie perfect because they wanted the most money possible. But in the end, all we got was the convoluted mess that it was. Now, again, Spider-Man 3, it's not a terrible movie. It's not like any bad M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's not Troll 2. It's not Steel. It's just a disappointing movie. But for me personally, I do like this movie, and I can find some enjoyment. And same for me, and it's not me being biased because I was in denial and I Phantom Menace this movie. But I still do find some enjoyment in this movie. But at the same time, I still can see the bad within this movie. Because the way I see it is like, if I see the first two movies, I'm going into Spider-Man 3. That's the only way I watch it. I'm not just going to watch this movie out of nowhere voluntary. So yeah, I say you could find some enjoyment in Spider-Man 3, but if you genuinely do not like this movie, hey, I understand it. I'm not going to tell you wrong. I'm going to give Spider-Man 3 3 stars for room for improvement. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. Be on the lookout for my review of The Amazing Spider-Man next month. And that's it for today. If you like what you see, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. And if you want to see more, check out my channel. The link is in the description below. And be sure to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Periscope. Peace.